right, Shalom. Call Halayimla, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kodash. Double honors to the beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS who rule well. Peace and salutation unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David, starting with the 144,000 and the rest of the men, women, and children out of the 12 tribes whom Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai will ultimately have mercy upon. I'm your brother Matazabah from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Melbourne, Australia. And this is going to be part 2. All right, back at it again. Debunking, all right, this false 1948 prophecy being fulfilled. Now, we're going to pick up later on now in this video. All right, and before you watch this lesson, if you didn't get a chance to watch part 1, I suggest you go back and watch that first before you dive into part 2. All right, so let me just take this back just a little bit.
Say that they paid off their debt to God in years of servitude.
Now, 1948 is when they returned from the north, south, east, west, all over. They'll tell you it was just the Ashkenazi Jews, which they're trying to tell you aren't Jews, but they are Jews, just like Ethiopian Jews are Jews.
So you see what he said. So Salakia, let me just do this.
To God in years of servitude.
Now, 1948 is when they returned from the north, south, east, west, all over. They'll tell you it was just the Ashkenazi Jews, which they're trying to tell you aren't Jews, but they are Jews, just like Ethiopian Jews are Jews. They're just mixed groups of people. Actually,
so that's where he's he doesn't have the history to know the mystery. All right, he's just and this is what Jake does. They'll hear something just like he used that Edomite to try to break down a time period, which we already broke it down in part 1. But he doesn't do his own research to see if what was being said and taught actually is 100% accurate. Now, who were the Ashkenazis? Let's go and prove that. Now, here I have on PDF file who is Esau Edom. And we're going to jump to page 9, where it says the origins of the Jews. So it says real quick, the Jews of today fall within two main types, the Sephardic and the Ashkenazi. The Sephardim are also known as Spanish Jews and constitute about 5% of the Jews in the world. The Ashkenazim are the East European Jews, which are found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. This group of Jews makes up 90% of the so-called Jews in the world. Many reference and historical sources have unequivocally identified that the bulk of the Ashkenazi Jews were derived from a people known as the Khazars. The original Ish Cyclopedia of 1905 revealed that the main stock of the Jews came from this Asiatic people known as Khazars. And this is from their own encyclopedia. So basically they're telling on themselves, and he can look this up. I bet you he doesn't even know this information. It says Khazars, a people of Turkish origin whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginnings of history of the Jews of Russia. Historical evidence points to the region of the Urals as the home of the Khazars. Now, we're going to jump down to page 11 because Arthur Koestler, which is a small hatter himself, who wrote the book, The 13th Tribe, goes into much more of this history, right? So it says, I'm going to start here. The Khazar government was destroyed by the Slavs of Russia in 1016 AD. Around 1200 AD, the land was invaded by the hordes of Genghis Khan. And these two events caused large numbers of Khazars to migrate to Poland and Western Russia, forming the cradle of Western Jewry. There is an abundance of ancient place names in the Ukraine and Poland, which derive from Khazar. As the Khazars left their homeland of Khazaria and migrated north and west, they lost their name and became known as Jews. And to give you a side note, what happened was they didn't, quote unquote, lose their name. You had a king by the name of Bulan, all right, who was the king of Khazaria Empire during his time. And basically he was caught in the crossfire between the Ottoman Turkish Empire and the Roman Catholic Knights of Templar. And basically, so that he didn't get, because they met him and they were forcing him to convert. And so what he did was, when there was a letter sent out to him, and you can look this letter up, and I've done lessons on this. Basically, he wrote in response that him and the village of his people, the religion that they sought was, they made up Judaism, because back then you had a man by the name of John Hyrcanus that forced circumcised a lot of those Edomites. And so King Bulan, after much research, he took it upon himself to avoid being forced to Islam and to avoid being forced to Catholicism. They took on Judaism, thus began the process or the birth of the religion Judaism today. It started with that. And so what they did was, fast forward, they put all of their resources together, and around the 1800s, that's when they really started to they used the Masoretes and stuff. They changed the vowel point of the Hebrew and everything, which is going to explain it. It's going to go into it. It says, as the Khazars left their homeland of Khazaria and migrated north and west, they lost their name and became known as the Jews. Their Yiddish language and alphabet is not that of the Israelites, but an amalgamation of Aramaic, medieval German, Slavic, and Russian dialects. All right. So it says the best, and here's the point. The best historical evidence, therefore, shows that the Jews are not descended directly from the Israelites of the Bible, but derive much of their ancestry from the Khazars and the other people of Turkish Asiatic blood. The Khazars are also of Edomite stock, and both stocks make up the present-day Jews. As the historian H.G. Wells states, the Idumeans, Edomites, were made Jews, and a Turkish people, Khazars, were mainly Jews in South Russia. The main part of Jewry never was in Judea and had never come out of Judea. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the original stock of the Khazars came from the land of Edom. So that cuts that right there, that the Ashkenazi Jews are not the Israelites, dude. All right? They are the stock of Edom. So now we got to go to the scripture to prove how the stock of Edom took over the land of Judea. Now we're going to go to Ezekiel, the 36th chapter. Okay. And I'm going to start at the point is at verse 5, but I'm going to start at verse 2. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because the enemy have said against you, aha, even the high or the ancient high places are ours in possession. Therefore prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh thy power, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the hip or in the lips of talkers and are an infamy of the people. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus said Yahweh to the mountains and to the hills, to the rivers and to the valleys, to the desolate waste and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and a derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. All right, because the word Idumea is Greek for Edom, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. You see that? To cast it out for a prey. Now, the proof for this, all right, let me go back here and let me find this. Let me see here. I have a article. If I type in, let's see here, Ron, or let's see here, interview. Here we go. Master plan of the Rothschild. Now I'm gonna show you something. And I managed to find this interview from Elder Apostle Gabar, who put me onto this. And let me get to the main point. I might have went past it. Okay, here it is right here. Okay, this is an interview. For those of you who don't know, Salakia, this is called The Master Plan of the Illuminati Rothschilds by Ron Patton, who interviews Marion Knox. And Marion Knox was an insider to the Illuminati. He worked very closely with the Rothschilds. Now, watch this. If we drop down to the question that Ron asks Marion, can you be more specific as to the role the Rothschilds play into all of this? Now, watch what Marion responds by saying. He says, well, most people who are into conspiracy know the Rothschilds are the most powerful family in the world, but you really don't hear about the details relating to how they have set themselves up to be king of the Jews and to usher in the Antichrist. It was the Rothschilds who financially backed the nation of Israel so they could eventually set up the throne for the Antichrist in Jerusalem. That's where you get the whole 1948. And to prove that even further, what this guy doesn't understand, let's go here and let's see here. Was it Jacob Rothschild says they purchased Israel. I think it was Jacob's Rothschild, if I'm not mistaken. Here you go.
It's 67 words long, it's 100 years old, and it changed the course of history for the Middle East and the Jewish people. The Balfour Declaration, the expression of the British government's support for a Jewish home in Palestine, was sent by British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to the second Lord Rothschild.
Now, that was Mayor Rothschild, right?
I'm here in Buckinghamshire at Waddesdon Manor to speak with the fourth Lord Rothschild about the Balfour Declaration, what it means for Britain, for the Jewish people, and the Rothschild family.
So you're going to see, and he's going to say out of his own mouth. Let's see what he says.
Interesting question, because he was really interested in ornithology.
And let me see if I can just find it and get straight to the point.
If you think you had an impoverished would-be scientist, Hein Weizmann, who somehow gets to England, meets a few people, including members of my family, seduces them. He has such great charm and conviction. He gets to Balfour, and he unbelievably persuades Balfour and Lloyd George, the Prime Minister, and most of the ministers, that this idea of the national home for Jews should be allowed to take place. I mean, it's so unlikely. Then he's, starts to fight a difficult battle with the British cabinet, and this letter goes through 5 drafts, as you know. And in the end...
Yeah, just for the sake of time. Basically, I'm going to leave this link in the description box, but he pretty much admits that his family created the state of Israel, which is not biblical prophecy. There's nowhere in the scriptures of the state of Israel being created. All right. So I'm going to leave this link in the description box on my YouTube page with this video, part 2, if any of you brothers want to check that out. So getting back to this article. So let me read it again. Marion clearly states, well, most people who are into conspiracy know the Rothschilds are the most powerful family in the world, but you really don't hear about the details relating to how they have set themselves up to be king of the Jews and to usher in the Antichrist. It was the Rothschilds who financially backed the nation of Israel so they can eventually set up the throne for the Antichrist in Jerusalem. And yet during World War II, their money and resources were used to kill millions of, you see it, but these were seen as expandable from the house of Jacob. Remember, these guys have the audacity to use the Bible as a blueprint to take over the world. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Let me give you some background information On one level, the Rothschilds secretly called themselves the House of David from the tribe of Judah. Now, Rothschilds translated from German to English means red shield. During biblical times, the Edomites' fortress was the red rocks of Petra. Esau, the twin brother of Jacob, was described as red and hairy. So this information fits perfectly with what survivors have been telling me, that on a deeper level, the Rothschilds are also claiming to be descendants of Esau and thus are really from the house or tribe of Esau. So right there, we have just proven the prophecy in Ezekiel 36 that Idumea have appointed the land into their possession, because when the Romans took down Israel, as I mentioned in part 1, under Vespasian and Titus between 66 and 70 AD, okay, you have a book which, when you look it up, let's look this up. The Roman Empire, the Empire of the Edomite. There it is right there. Written by William Beeston. Read this book. I actually have this book. All right. And it tells you, I believe on page 9, if you have the book, that the Romans are the Edomites. Once again, this is secular history that he does not know because he doesn't study to show himself approved. He's just a zombie Jake that will listen to another person, an Edomite, that completely butchered Daniel, the 9th chapter, and then use that as proof and evidence that the people that's over there in the land today is the true biblical Israelites. False. The Rothschilds are they're the stock of Esau, Edom, and they control the land, because the prophecy here in Ezekiel 36 and 5, let's read it again. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, because the Edomites are not the only ones that's in that land, occupying that land. You have the so-called Palestinians, which is your Arabs, all right, your Ishmaelites today. They're also in that land. It says, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. That's why when you go to Zechariah, the 9th chapter, in the 6th verse, it says what? And a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. Who's dwelling in Ashdod right now? The Edomites. They have control of the land. Now, when you go back, Ezekiel 36, all right, it says, actually, let's go to Ezekiel 35 and 10. It says, because thou, meaning Mount Seir, Esau, Edom, has said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas Yahweh was there. Proving that when you go back to the article, okay, they're the ones that are responsible for taking over the land. All right. And like I said, you can watch the video. Jacob Rothschild speaks, my family created Israel. There's no sense for you to create a state of Israel when the prophecy states that when the true biblical Israelites return to the land, let's get that. Jeremiah 30 and 10. It says, therefore, fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith Yahweh, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return and shall be in rest and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. Now, the question I have for this individual, if we're going based upon what the prophecy says, right? You need to explain that if the true people are really in the Holy Land today, if those people are the true people, why is there still war going on when the scripture says that when they return, they should be at peace? Let's get some more precepts. We ain't going to just rely on that precept. Let's get some more precepts. All right. Jeremiah 23 and 6. In his days, meaning Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, Judah shall be saved and Israel shall dwell safely. Is Israel currently dwelling safely now? No. They're surrounded by many Arab nations that want to hijack them and pretty much obliterate them off the face of the earth. And this is his name whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. Right? Let's see here. Let me see what else I want to get. Yep, Ezekiel 34:25-28. And I will make with them a covenant of peace and will cause the evil beast to cease out of the land. And they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods. And I will make them in the places round about my hill a blessing. And I will cause the shower to come down in the season. And there shall be showers of blessings. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield her increase, and they shall be safe in their land, and shall know that I am Yahweh when I have broken the bands of their yoke, which shows you that the true Israelites will still be in captivity. It says, and deliver them out of the hand of those that serve themselves on them. And they shall no more be a prey to the heathen. Are they not? Because right now, if they, let's say if they were the true people, guess what? You got the Carmanians, which is Iran, that's trying to go to war with them. Turkey, pertaining to biblical prophecy in Ezekiel the 38th chapter. Togarmah and Gomorrah, which are the ancient names from modern day Turkey today. They're getting involved. They want to take Israel down. And you also have, I think it was Poland, if I'm not mistaken, that was against the U.S. for helping Israel. I gotta check I gotta fact check that. All right, don't hold me to that. But nevertheless, these nations, and also you got certain countries within the continent of Africa that is also coming up against Israel. So how can they be the true people and prophecy being fulfilled? They supposed to be quiet. None is supposed to make them afraid. It says, neither shall the beasts of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid. They're afraid right now. I guess that's why they going to DJ Trump, asking him for help, all right, to go up against Iran. Make that make sense if they're the people of the land, right? Let me see here. Let's also get see what else they got here. Yeah, so, let's get one more for good measure. Isaiah 2. All right. And one, the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways. And we will walk in his paths, for out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Now, you know what's funny? All right. Prove to me that all the nations around the world are going to Israel and Israel's teaching them the laws, because the last time I checked, according to my knowledge, you have a, let me see here. Is it called? Tel Aviv. It says, and this is in Jerusalem. It says the Tel Aviv Pride Parade is a vibrant and internationally renowned event held annually in Tel Aviv, Israel during Pride Month, typically in early June. It's a major highlight of a week-long series of Pride Month celebrations and attracts hundreds of thousands of participants and visitors. So wait a minute. You want to talk about these being the people of the land? All right. This is one of the main reasons why the Lord cast out the true Israelites out of the land, because they were adulterous. They were seeking other gods. All right. They were, keeping up. They were committing sodomy acts. But here it is. The very people that's claiming to be the people are practicing this bullshit, showing you that no, man, the Lord ain't with this, man. So here it is. They're practicing this, but this prophecy says that when the true Israelites come into the land, they're going to keep the laws and teach the other nations. How the hell can you be keeping the law, but yet you're breaking the law at the same time by practicing sodomy? Make that make sense. And here's the main point, verse 4. And he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, okay, which goes into agriculture. And nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Why is there still war going on over there in that part of the region? Because we just read that when the Israelites return into the land, they are supposed to dwell safely. But why is it that them being surrounded by those Arab countries over there, okay, they are being threatened with war? Why is that? If you can answer that for me, that'll be greatly appreciated. But you can't answer it. You know why? Because you don't understand prophecy. You don't know the scriptures. You just another lost Israelite that don't know any better, man. And you're going to be destroyed. You're going to be destroyed along with those Amalekites right up in the land, man.
The United States flew the Ethiopian Jews from Ethiopia back.
And that's another thing, though. The Ethiopian Jews are not Jews. They're called Phoenician Jews, right? Which goes back to the time of, once again, King Salmanasar and 2 Kings, the 17th chapter. They were the group along with the other heathens that came into the land, okay? And they were taught by the Levitical priests on how to give the correct sacrifice in order to stay in the land. When the scripture says that, what's going to happen to the actual Ethiopians? Let's get Zechariah 2 and 12. Zephaniah 2 and 12, Salakia. All right. Zephaniah 2 and 12 says, ye Ethiopians also, ye shall be slain by my sword. Why is that? Because the Ethiopians are Cushites, man. They're from the tribe of, they're from the line of Ham. Their progenitor goes back to Ham, not Shem. So they're not Israelites. All right. But he don't know that.
To Israel. So the Jews returned from all over the world in 1948, and Israel actually didn't gain control of Israel. They returned in 48, or they started the return, but they didn't gain control. It was 1967 or 68, and that is actually when the 2,520 years ends from 537 BC.
Well, no, because when you get Revelation 21 and 3, and I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of the Most High is with men, and he will dwell in them, and they shall be his people. And the Most High himself shall be with them and be their power. And the Most High shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. And there shall be no more death, meaning we're going to be immortal, neither sorrow nor crying, because we're not going to be in captivity anymore. You had an article just last year when Israel was going back and forth with Hamas. You had a situation where there was an article where Israelis were leaving the country and they were crying. They were in tears. What is that all about? It says, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Has this happened yet? No, it hasn't. Even the Messiah said what? Matthew 24 and 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heaven and to the other. Wait a minute. Did not the scripture says that when the Messiah returns, all right, this is Revelation 1 and 7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so, Amen. So you need to show us in history, because it was prophesied that when the Messiah returns, he's going to be the one to gather the elect of Israel and bring them back into the land. When did that happen? Because according to prophecy, which is what you dudes don't deal with, okay? According to true prophecy, if you're dealing with the volume of the book, every eye shall see him. So we all, including yourself, should have seen Yahweh Shai coming down with the great chariot, the fathership, beaming up the elect across the four corners of the earth. When did that happen? When did that happen? You can't answer that because it hasn't happened yet. This guy's lost, man. Anyway, so I think the point has been made, and I'm gonna leave it off there because I can't deal with this dude no more. But anyway, you heard it. All right. So with that, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor be to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakahakudash. Double honors to the beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David, and so on to the next, Lord's will. Shalom.